Good morning. It's so nice to see you all. I'm Shari Humes, and I'm the service assistant for today, so I want to welcome you each. And today, our minister is our dear minister, Frank. He's going to tell you a little bit about what he's going to talk.
Hi, everybody. I'm Reverend Frank. For those of you who haven't met yet, which there's a few of you here, so hi. Today's talk is about joy. And the title is The Great Harmonization. We talk a lot about harmonizing energies. So today, it's like, what does joy harmonize? I'll give you a teaser. It has something to do with heaven and earth, being in balance. Yeah, the Great Harmonization. So and as all these talks, I keep looking till I go, ooh, that one touches me. I'm really grateful for the energy of joy today. This will be good.
And our music ministry is vast and wide today. It's going to be a fun morning of music. So we have our Unity pop-up choir this morning, led by Marcia, and we have some fun songs for you. And of course, Kathy on the piano. Thank you. And Deb, too. Or keyboard. Let us come together to offer prayer. To offer prayer for our neighbors, friends, and families affected by the flooding in our county and in our state. We hold each and all in love and light. Let us hold that thought. Let's see the love and light surround them for just a second. Prayer is an interactive, energetic process, even in the stillness where the veil of what is and what can be is thin. Prayer joins us with Spirit Divine into knowing all is possible. In prayer, we give space to allow peace, hope, and joy. This is the grace of peace, hope, love, and joy that continues to unfold in miraculous ways. The most simple prayer is thank you. If you would like to pray for someone or something, feel free to speak aloud their name. And with our prayers, we can always say, thank you, thank you. And so it is. We now make space for relaxation and meditation. Our breath invites our body and mind to relax and sink into union. So let us begin with breath. Breathe in. As you breathe in deep and release, begin to feel stillness. Follow your breath for several cycles. Deep breath in, hold for a second, let out slowly. As you follow your breath, become curious about crossing a thin veil, welcoming renewed hope, deeper peace, authentic love, bubbles of pure joy. Hope, peace, love, joy. Feel your way with inner eye open and heart receptive. And as you think about these things and feel these things, let the sound take you deeper and farther.
We had a first week for faith, peace, love, and we've got our final candle today, joy. Charles Fillmore, his Unity's co-founder, has a very simple definition for joy and says, when the happiness of the divine shows up in our life, that's joy. God's happiness resonates with us, that's joy. There's a harmonization of the happiness of the divine and the happiness of our own life. And when those are in harmony, when those are aligned, Charles Fillmore says, it's joy. And today, I want to get that sense of that harmonization. There's a beautiful idea I know Marie shared last week. We talked about love as, we talk so often about maybe trying to stay out of the dualities of things, the either ors, but find this beautiful place in the polarity of truth where things sort of flow together, where we stay out of the extremes and we find this beautiful harmony, these harmonies of today, this harmony I want to talk about is heaven and earth. There's this sense that, there's, however we see this heavenly realm, which might feel different than the earthly realm, as if there's a choice of being in either one. The polarity of these things says, there's a way like the happiness of the divine is in our happiness. This eternal heavenly happiness is the experience and the expression of our finite experience. And that place where we feel that harmonization, where we're in that sweet spot where we're feeling both. What I want to suggest is I want to call that a thin place. A thin place. And when we're over in any extreme, it feels like that's thick. Like, this other thing, this heavenly concept, maybe, and there's a lot to talk about that, like where we're maybe disconnected by what's going on in life, or we can get so caught up in what's going on in this finite expression of life that we forget this eternal joy, this eternal place, this balancing, this harmonization, this thin place where it comes together. There's a theologian, John Philip Newell, who wrote, "A thin place is a place in which we sometimes see briefly right through the veil that separates heaven and earth. And at times that veil can seem as thin as gossamer. But that's not to say that every other place is thick. Rather, it is to say that thin places are like sacraments. They're like living icons through which we glimpse the light that is present everywhere. And cherish it as a place in which our seeing is renewed. So that when we return to what seems like demanding and conflicted places of our lives and our world, we do so with open eyes, and now our eyes have been refreshed. We see it different in these thin places. I was contemplating the thin places of my life or my life's experience. It's fun to kind of pick out the highlights, but what I want to suggest and what I want to offer for our reflection today is for all of us to think about times in your life where you've had that thin place experience where the veil between heaven and earth, there's like a gossamer where you're not even sure which side of the veil you're on, which side of the ledger you're showing up in, just this beautiful middle place where the eternal feels so part of your finite human experience, and at the same time, your full human experiences feels enlivened with the eternal energy of spirit. It's important, I think, for today. What I want to ask is think of a time in your life. I'll give you an example of mine when I was 7 years old. 7. We took a family trip to Arizona. Apparently there was a wedding in California. I don't remember any of that, but I remember the trip. We went to the Grand Canyon, and they had like a rock wall, and we parked the car, and I walked around this rock wall. And when I saw the Grand Canyon, I froze. I put myself against the rock, and my parents go, come on. I'm like, no. I just, what words do you use for that? The words come to mind like gobsmacked, actually terrified, speechless, just struck down with like the magnificence. Anyone been to the Grand Canyon? You know what I'm talking about? That was my experience. Literally, I stayed pressed together. My family all walked on, and I just stood there. I thought about that story later, and I thought, well, I must be scared of heights. That was it. But as time has gone on, I realized that's not the story. What it was awe. Absolute awe. Awe. It was so awesome. It's almost as if when we reach these pieces, these thin places in our life where we're just touched by the magnificence, maybe we have a choice. Either we say nothing or we start going, or we start talking gibberish because we just don't know how to deal. It's just beyond. Our finite mind, we've been touched with an eternal glimpse of this awesomeness. And we're like, wow. I thought of many years later, I'll give you some other examples because what I want is for you to think of examples in your own life. And that was an example of big nature and what it can do. I went with some friends. We rented a Volkswagen Bug, 4 of us, and we toured around Mexico, and we pyramid hopped. Uxmal, Chichen Itza, and all those. And I went to one place. It was way down south, almost by Guatemala. It was called Palenque. And we parked the car, and we walked around these bushes, and there was the Palenque Archaeological Park, these ancient ruins. And once again, it was the same thing. What do you say? How could this be here? Who built it? I don't know the answers to this. How did they do it? Who knows? Do you know the feeling? Can you find that in your own life, that awe? What is this? And in those cases, it's so funny because I tell you the story, it's like it happened yesterday. These experiences of awe, these experiences of standing in a thin place are so potent. Like they seep into our soul so deeply that it's like yesterday it happened. It's like a minute ago it happened. I remember falling in love. Oh, I remember that day so well. What's going on? that experience of like, something just changed. And my life will never be the same again. Never same again. You remember holding your baby for the first time? Can you think of those times in your life? Can you think it? And in each case, it happens like in a moment, but we ponder it for a lifetime. We ponder these things for a lifetime and wonder, what does this all mean? And how has this changed my life? And in that spirit, the pondering and what we can find from that, it changes our trajectory. And what we learn from the experience will be the lessons of a lifetime. There was this young woman. Her name was Mary. And this angel Gabriel was sent to God to a town in Galilee. It was called Nazareth. And this angel went to this virgin. She was engaged to a man whose name was Joseph. Her name was Mary. And this angel came to her and said, the angel shows up and says to her, "Greetings, favorite one, the Lord is with you." You hear the story? Gobsmacked. What is happening? What is this? I was just sitting here in my house minding my business, and all of a sudden, something's happening that's going to change the trajectory of my life. When angels come to us, however we experience an angel coming to us, we have now stepped into a very thin place. And she was perplexed by the words and pondered, what does this mean? And then it said, "Don't be afraid, Mary. You have found favor with God. And now you'll conceive in your womb and bear a son. You will name him Jesus. He will be great. He will be called the Son of the Most High. And the Lord God will give to this child the throne of the ancestor David. He'll reign over the house of Jacob forever, and his kingdom there will be no end." And then Mary said to the angel, what would you say? "Hi, favored one." By the way, this is a story of an angel to Mary. Yes, it's a story. Who's this story really about? It's about each of us. And Mary, the idea of Mary, you might hear that and sort of metaphysically, this is your soul. This is your soul. This divine voice, this divine presence shows up right into your soul and says, "Greetings, favored one." The voice of the divine comes to your soul and said, "Greetings, favored one." Thin as gossamer, thin places. So Mary, I love this. What else are you going to say? I am not married. I haven't been with a man. How can this be? So the angel says, "The Holy Spirit is with you. The Most High is upon you. The Holy Spirit is with you, and the Most High is upon you. And this child that is to be born will be holy." And also you have a relative. She's pregnant too. Even in her older age, nothing is impossible with God. And then Mary said, I love this concluding remark, "Here I am, the servant of the Lord. Let it be according to me as your word." And then the angel departed. I love the thin places where we can hear that angelic voice. And I love this comment that Mary pondered these things in her heart. She pondered these things into her heart. And an interesting thing about a thin place, and I'll offer this to you when these events happen in your life, and they do. And by the way, they're not always, while sometimes there are these awesome moments sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon, my experience, see if this corresponds to your experience, sometimes they happen walking in Whatcom Park. Sometimes they happen walking down the street where you see this blue peeking out from a rain cloud. Sometimes they happen, you're just walking to your car and an eagle calls from overhead. Sometimes you're just driving down the street and it starts raining, you see a rainbow. Sometimes, once we start looking for those thin places, I want to suggest we start seeing them all the time. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, those thin places, those opportunities. And they offer us and they suggest to us, as the writing said, we sit in our daily life with what's going on. But can we go through our daily life with new eyes, refreshed eyes, so that at every moment in all the daily activities, we're ready to see the heavenly aspect? Can we stay in that beautiful polarity of the both and, a foot in heaven, a foot in earth, and feeling this divine play that flows through us as a human, as a human being, that beautiful middle ground, and ponder it and see what it means. Yeah. And what does that mean? It's the days before Christmas. What does it mean for the Christmas story? Talk about your thin places where the veil is just like gossamer. And so Mary decides, here's some good advice. Instead of like running around and telling everybody what happened, she says, I think I'll go see my cousin Elizabeth for 6 months. I need to take this in. I'm not going to act on this right this second. Too much has stirred up in my soul. I'm just like, what do you say? How do you deal with those angelic visits? And we all have angelic visits. We all have that voice in our souls. So she adopted a posture of, what I'm going to do, my kinswoman Elizabeth is pregnant. I think I'll go help her for a while. So she leaves. And she goes to see Elizabeth, and she stays with Elizabeth until Elizabeth has her child, who turns out to be John the Baptist. Then she comes home. She had some time. She had a chance to take in what all this could mean in her life. And then she comes back, and she has an insight, and she shares it with all of us. And it's a prayer. It's a kind of a famous prayer. And in first line of it in Latin, when you look at the Latin Bible, Magnificat annum meum Dominum. My soul magnifies my God. Magnificat annum Deum, mea Dominum. My soul magnifies God. And it goes, this beautiful song. My soul magnifies my God. My spirit rejoices. My spirit rejoices in the divine. God has looked with favor on my simplicity, on my loneliness, on my humility. And surely from now on, all generations will call me blessed, for the mighty one has done great things for me. God's name is holy. And indeed, God's mercy is for those who respect all of divine life. Generation to generation to generation, God has shown strength and has scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. God has brought down powerful from their thrones, but has lifted up the lowly. God has filled the hungry with all good things, but the rich has sent away empty. God has come to the aid of the people. God has remembered mercy. Some people call this the great turnaround. The proud are scattered in the imagination of their hearts. The powerful are knocked down off of thrones. The lowly are lifted up, and the hungry are filled. The great turnaround. But I want to suggest, maybe along with the great, reversal, it's the great harmonization. The great harmonization. It doesn't say the lowly then become the rich and the ones who are powerful get thrown down and now are the poor. It doesn't say switch places. It says find the balance. You find the harmony in this. Find the communal balance where people live in a certain balance of equanimity and peace and harmony. And if you want to look, which I want to suggest, we look at this with just a moment of a sort of a translation. I mean, you think about this. God has shown strength and scattered the proud in the imagination of their hearts. What I call that is the proud in my imagination. That's my big ego. I mean, you can read this story about a social commentary, but for today, I want to suggest read it as a piece of our own souls, of what's happening in our own personal lives. And how much in our own lives do we look at how we're getting tripped up in our own ego pride? It says, the lowly will be lifted up. How about what's being lifted up is when we come to our lives with a humility of openness, a humility of being willing to be of service, a humility of being open to learn new and evolve and expand in our consciousness. We lift up the lowly, the very energies of our life. That gets lifted up. That humility gets lifted up, and our prideful ego comes down. And we find a better balance of service to each other. The hungry are filled with good things. When we're hungry for the inspiration of God's Spirit, when we're like, I really want to grow. I really want to be filled. I really want to move forward in new, heightened, awakened awareness of what's mine to do and to be of service. When we hear that, we're lifted up. That part of us is lifted up. So I want to end then, and I want to read this prayer of Mary again, this Magnificat. This Magnificat anima mea dominum. This, my soul magnifies God. And I want to suggest the very first line is when we look at an issue or a perceived problem in the world and we go, I just want to sit and think about that problem, versus, I think I'll magnify the energy of God in my life. And how many times have we sort of thought about this idea that instead of focusing on what we don't want, what if we put the energy on the beautiful, the good, and the true that we do want? What we do want to express. Let's put our energy there. Let's magnify that as opposed to magnifying the problems. I'm talking to myself. Do we do that? So if you'd be willing, would you close your eyes for a minute and allow my words to be your words? And Mary, the energy of my soul, says, deep in my soul, I'm going to magnify the spirit of the good. And my spirit will now rejoice in the divine, my liberation, my transformation, the sacred good. For the divine in my heart has shown so much favor on me as I present myself as a servant, as I present myself open and willing and receptive to the voice, the happiness, the joy of God in my life. And I affirm now that all generations, those who came before and those who will follow me, will be grateful that I showed up and blessed this journey. For the Mighty One is doing great things in me, for me, and through me. And this is done because God is holy and God is willing to use me as a servant. It is done because God is using me as God's servant. and I feel God's mercy in my life. I affirm this mercy in my life. I acknowledge the mercy, the divine mercy that allows goodness, love, joy to flow through me in all ways. I affirm that is the truth in my life. And that as I stand in this energy, it follows through me from generation to generation, through my friends, through my communities. I touch, and who touch me in return. This divine energy, this divine life, this divine flow is blessing all of us. And God's strength supports me and comes for me and supports my pride and my ego to be diminished from thinking it's in control to allowing it to be the servant of the good for my life and those who are around me. All those egotistical thoughts, the divine life allows them to be subsumed and allow love and allow the essence of a servant attitude, of a mystic's voice, of one that knows the interrelationship and the deep connection with God. Let that be the root of my soul. And when I can be hungry, be open, be searching for that divine energy into my heart, hungry for new awareness, hungry to touch that divine spark, when I'm hungry for that, and then I'm fulfilled. Then I'm fulfilled. I affirm and I trust that God is always available. That energy is always here for me. That in this thin place, when I'm open and awake and aware and receptive to that divine energy, that divine mercy will bless me, will show up, will fortify my heart. Will be the strength of my life. And then I know I will be a blessing to all those around me. And I thank God for using me. And I thank God and say, I am your servant. And just let it be unto me as God wills. And so it is. A couple announcements. The first one's pretty obvious. This Wednesday's Christmas, or Thursday's Christmas. So Wednesday at 4 o'clock is our candle lighting ceremony. And out walking yesterday about 4 o'clock. It's dark already, about then. So it's nice to do the candlelight. So you're all welcome. And then the following Sunday is a contemplative service. Unity tradition has often been a burning bowl. But we've tried burning things in here, and it's pretty. So we've converted it to dissolving bowl. Better to put paper and water, put our end, what we let go of in the end, and dissolve it. So come to our contemplative service a week from Sunday if you're here in town. And if you're here in town, bring friends, because many of you will be out of town. So safe travels for all of you who are traveling. Another announcement. For everyone in Jonathan's Monday morning spiritual conversations. So I have a suggestion. So I'm just going to announce this. Let's do this. Let's go to Shari's and have breakfast. Jonathan's out. It's the end of the year. How about we just have a breakfast? So I'm seeing for all you people who like to come on Monday morning, let's go to Shari's. And then I'll stay here and grab the people who aren't here and don't know. And we'll meet you for breakfast at Shari's. You know where Shari's is? Down the street? Yep, just at the corner. Yeah, we'll be at Shari's house at 10:30. The Shari's, the restaurant that's just down the street on Telegraph is what we're talking about.